1. Access to medical records. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary to grant patients immediate and complete access to their medical records. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it empowers patients regarding their own health information. This is because this information is fundamentally theirs, and individuals possess the right to understand everything concerning their own body. If all patients had prompt access to their medical records, it would be more likely for our society to have more informed and proactive individuals managing their health. I think it is essential to patient autonomy. Furthermore, it improves patient understanding and reduces anxiety. The reason I say this is because being able to see test results quickly avoids prolonged periods of worry, allows for seeking second opinions if desired, and enables patients to formulate specific questions about overlooked details, especially when doctors are busy. If all patients have an equal chance to review their information promptly, greater clarity and peace of mind will be achieved. Therefore, I think immediate access to medical records is very important for patients. 2. Mandatory mental health education. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary to make mental health education mandatory in high schools. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it provides students with crucial coping mechanisms and self-awareness. This is because many students experience significant stress from academic pressures and family issues, and they require tools to manage these challenges. Additionally, understanding complex adolescent emotions is vital for development. If all high school students were taught about mental health, it would be more likely for our society to gain more resilient and emotionally intelligent young citizens in the future. I think it is essential to their well-being. Furthermore, it fosters a more supportive peer environment and encourages early help seeking. The reason I say this is because learning about mental health equips students to recognize difficulties in their friends and offer support, addressing a common uncertainty. And early education can help prevent future problems, which are increasingly prevalent. If all students have an equal chance to learn about mental health, a more empathetic school culture and better long-term mental health outcomes will be achieved. Therefore, I think it's very important to teach mental health in schools, and all students should learn this. 3. Special tourist transportation. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for cities to provide special transportation for tourists. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it greatly enhances the visitor experience and accessibility. This is because tourists are often unfamiliar with a new city's layout and transit system, and dedicated services, potentially with multilingual options, significantly ease navigation difficulties to key attraction. If all tourist cities provided such transportation, it would be more likely for visitors to feel more comfortable and explore destinations more thoroughly. I think it is essential to promoting tourism. Furthermore, it offers practical benefits for both tourists and the city. The reason I say this is because specialized routes can directly serve major points of interest like museums and parks more efficiently than regular public transport. And it can also generate revenue for the city, making visits easier and more attractive. If all tourists have an equal chance to use convenient, dedicated transport, increased visitor satisfaction and economic benefits will be achieved. Therefore, I think special transportation for tourists is a very good idea that helps everyone. 4. Banning electronic devices in hospitals. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for hospitals to ban electronic devices in patient areas. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it helps maintain a calm and safe healing environment. This is because noise from calls or entertainment on devices can disturb other patients needing rest, and there is a potential risk of electronic interference with sensitive medical equipment. If all patient areas restricted the use of personal electronic devices, it would be more likely for hospitals to provide a quieter atmosphere more conducive to recovery and potentially reduce risks. I think it is essential to patient care. Furthermore, it promotes better focus and hygiene. The reason I say this is because device usage can distract patients during important interactions with doctors and nurses, and mobile devices are known to carry germs, which is undesirable in a setting requiring high levels of cleanliness. If there is a clear policy limiting device use, Improved communication and a cleaner environment will be achieved. Therefore, I think banning electronic devices in hospital patient areas is necessary. 5. EV charging stations in new buildings. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for all new buildings to have charging stations for electric cars. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it supports the growing adoption of sustainable transportation. This is because the popularity of electric vehicles, EVs, is increasing, but the lack of convenient charging infrastructure remains a barrier for many potential buyers. Providing charging encourages this environmentally friendly shift. If all new constructions were mandated to include EV charging, it would be more likely for our society to accelerate the transition away from fossil fuel vehicles. I think it is essential for environmental progress. Furthermore, it provides a practical and equitable solution for residents. The reason I say this is because installing charging stations during the construction phase is significantly more cost-effective than retrofitting later, and it ensures access for people, especially those in apartments or lacking private garages, who otherwise couldn't easily charge an EV. If all new buildings provide this amenity, greater convenience and fair access to EV infrastructure will be achieved. Therefore, I think making all new buildings have charging stations is a very good idea that helps everyone. 6. Virtual reality in classrooms. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for schools to use virtual reality, VR, in the classroom. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it makes learning significantly more engaging and experiential. This is because VR technology can transport students to different places and times, like ancient civilizations or inside the human body, transforming abstract concepts into immersive, memorable experiences that make learning fun. If all schools integrated VR effectively, it would be more likely for students to develop a greater curiosity and deeper interest in their subjects. I think it is essential for modern education. Furthermore, it can improve comprehension and cater to diverse learning styles. The reason I say this is because experiencing concepts directly through VR often leads to better understanding than traditional methods like reading textbooks, and it appeals strongly to today's tech-savvy generation of students. If all students have an equal chance to learn with VR tools, enhanced understanding and increased motivation will be achieved. Therefore, I think VR is good for education. 7. Fees for single-use items in restaurants. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for restaurants to charge extra fees for single-use items. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it directly addresses the significant environmental problem of waste. This is because single-use items like plastic containers and cutlery contribute massively to landfill burdens and pollution after just one use. If all restaurants implemented such fees, it would be more likely for our society to see a noticeable reduction in disposable waste. I think it is essential for environmental protection. Furthermore, it encourages more sustainable consumer behavior. The reason I say this is because a direct cost associated with disposable items prompts customers to consider alternatives, such as bringing their own reusable containers, thereby reducing demand and protecting wildlife from plastic pollution. If there is a financial incentive to avoid single-use items, a positive shift towards reusables and greater environmental consciousness will be achieved. Therefore, I think charging extra money is a good idea to protect our environment. 8. Using real names online. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for people to use their real names when commenting online. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it promotes greater accountability and civility in online interactions. This is because knowing that their identity is attached to their comments encourages individuals to be more thoughtful and less likely to post offensive or harmful content. If all online commenters used their real names, it would be more likely for online discourse to become more respectful and constructive. I think it is essential for healthier online communities. Furthermore, it can reduce harmful behavior and foster genuine connections. The reason I say this is because anonymity often enables cyberbullying, harassment, and the spread of misinformation without consequence, whereas using real names can build trust and allow for more authentic relationships and conversations. If real names were standard online, a safer and more trustworthy internet environment will be achieved. Therefore, I think real names are better than anonymous names on the internet. 9. Zero waste grocery stores. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for grocery stores to be zero waste. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it significantly reduces environmental pollution, especially plastic waste. This is because conventional grocery shopping involves vast amounts of packaging, much of it single-use plastic, which harms ecosystems and depletes resources. If all grocery stores move towards a zero-waste model, it would be more likely for our society to make substantial progress in tackling the plastic crisis. I think it is essential for planetary health. Furthermore, it promotes mindful consumption and can reduce waste at multiple levels. The reason I say this is because allowing customers to bring their own containers enables them to buy only the amount needed, thus reducing food waste at home, and it often eliminates the cost associated with packaging. If all shoppers have the chance to buy without packaging, less food waste and potential cost savings will be achieved. Therefore, I think all stores should aim for zero waste because it's good for the environment and helps people save money too. 10. Monitoring children's internet use. I understand that some people think that it is not necessary for parents to monitor their children's internet activities until they turn 18. However, I am against this viewpoint for two reasons. To begin with, it is fundamentally about ensuring the child's safety in the digital world. This is because the internet contains numerous risks, including exposure to inappropriate content, online predators, and cyberbullying, which children may not have the maturity to navigate safely alone. If all parents actively monitored their children's online presence, it would be more likely for young people to be shielded from significant online dangers. I think it is essential for child protection. Furthermore, it helps instill healthy digital habits and balance. The reason I say this is because unmonitored internet access can easily lead to excessive screen time, impacting sleep, schoolwork, and real-world social interaction. Parental guidance is needed to set appropriate limits. If parents have oversight of internet use, a better balance between online activities and other aspects of the child's life will be achieved. Therefore, I think parents have a responsibility to monitor internet use to protect their children.